All right. Welcome to the Mahler River School District Business Meeting for January 9th, 2025. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have any public comment? No public comment tonight. Next up is consider changes to the agenda. Anybody have any changes they want to present? Hearing none. Student Board Representative Report, which Madison is not here, so we will pass on that. And our first action, or only action item, is the consent agenda that includes our December meeting minutes and personnel report.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I move to accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions? Comments? Okay, all in favor of approving the consent agenda as presented, raise your right hand. Okay, all in favor? Next up, we have a fall sports recap with Mr. Lord. Hello.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Director McNeil. Good evening, School Board. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. We've been talking with the Superintendent Mann, and we were hoping that this can be a 3 or 4 time a year process, speaking to all of you about just to update activities, athletics, and kind of what's going on. So our hope is to come in after the fall season, after the winter, and after the spring, and then as we head into summer, a recap of the school year of kind of where we are, what we've done, where we're headed with that. So I put together a bit of a presentation for all of you. When I met with I think I was was it July? I met all of you in July when I first got the job, and July was a lot of work to do, and to kind of start the process with the athletic department. And the first thing I did when I met with Superintendent Mann was we talked about the IAP that was done a couple of years ago, and where we kind of saw the athletic and activities department. And I put together on the our mission statement. And this came from really the IAP and kind of what we're about and what are we trying to do as athletics and activities here at Molalla High School. And I'm big in mission, and we know this as a district that what's our one sentence statement. And we came up with the idea of by using the vehicle athletics and activities, coaches and advisors will prepare student athletes in Molalla High School to become leaders and champions in life by placing the high values on integrity, character, sportsmanship, and victory. And within there's 3 pillars: the excellence of academics, the athletic excellence, and character excellence. And those are things that we've been working on the last 6 months here at Molalla High School. Sometimes it can be a challenge, but we also know that what we're doing for our students is for the greater good, showing them the importance of passing classes, that you can't participate until you can pass your classes, these sort of things. Obviously, what does it mean to be an excellence in athletics? Are we talking about winning every game? Not necessarily, but what athletics provides for our students. Then to me, the biggest thing I've been focused on with our students is the excellence of character. Character development, I think, is the foundation of what we're about. We're using athletics and activities to teach these important character traits with that. So that's been our mission the last 6 months. Personally, I think it's been going well. There's been challenges, obviously. We've had great conversations with our students as well as our coaches. And what I like to do is kind of just recap kind of what the fall has done. This is kind of a brochure I put together during the summer months to kind of go with our IAP, kind of more like a one-pager type of look. This is stuff I've shared with the community as I'm out and about, meeting people in the business community, asking for donations, because I feel like when I'm out in the community, if I'm going to ask for things, here's what we're trying to provide. as an athletic department, as activities and athletics. So again, all that is just kind of a recap of what we're about to really give our community an idea of our kind of our mission with athletics. So I felt that the idea of coaching, facilities, student athletes, community, as well as the kind of a 3-pillar, the triangle idea, that character, academics, athletics are just as important. And to me, if I had to place some more importance, it's going to be character. We want to, trust me, we want to win at Molalla as much as we can. But the idea is that we're preparing our high school students for what's next. And athletics and activities are the great vehicle to teach those life lessons with that. So that's where we've been. Football this year, we had 64 participants in 2 teams. It's the most we've had in a while. We had great participation throughout the year. We had a rough start going 0-4, but the idea of resiliency was paramount for us this year. We came back and won 4 in a row, 3-1 in league play, finished 4-6 overall. Lost in the first round of the playoffs. What I enjoyed this year about the football side of things was the community effort that it took. I look at Friday nights in Molalla as a community, as a expression of our community. Upper right-hand corner is 1994 league championship team from Coach Clark. Came back, and if you know Mike, he was paramount that we got to get these guys out here. And so we introduced them between the first and second quarter. I thought all of our games were well attended. It was a great atmosphere with that. We tried some new things this year, I think, that worked in terms of having honorary captains, bringing back ex-alumni. We brought back the 1948 grad, Wade Owens, who was a 48 grad here, went on to play at University of Oregon, basketball and baseball. So I had him out to introduce everybody. And it was a great 4 games for us, home games. Again, the idea of just promoting the community with that. So a great fall with that. Not to mention the weather. Let's be honest, the weather was great, and we didn't have to go sit through too many bad experience with weather. I liked it. I picked a picture in the upper right because all that we know, the time that she gives, not only this district, but our volleyball program. And I thought that was great right there. Just the expression of what it's about. We had 40 participants in 3 teams, 2-8 in league overall, 4-14 overall. But I think the idea that what I witnessed from the volleyball program is just a buy-in of the entire community with the volleyball program. I always look from behind the scoreboard, and I look at, if you couldn't see the scoreboard, you wouldn't be able to tell what the score of the match was. Just the way our girls competed and the way our coaches coached. It was a great fall with that. Not to mention our head coach takes care of, does a lot for our volleyball program. So it's great to have great people involved as the athletic director with that. Boys and girls soccer this year, we had close to over 60 participants amongst 2 teams. We have a real tough soccer league. Our boys just finished 1 game out of the playoffs. Our girls finished 3rd place in league. They in our league in the 4A level, that means we are a play-in game. So we had a great, exciting penalty kicks. We went to penalty PKs and beat Mazama to advance in the playoffs. And that's the picture in the upper right there after the Tate, our Gross Nickel, our goalie, stopped that last 5th shot. It was great to see the girls out there competing with that. So great fall for both our boys and girls soccer programs. I thought was great. And then cross country, again, we had about 33 participants. It was the first time, I believe, that in the 4A level that both our teams qualified for at-large. I'm not familiar too much with the idea of the timing on cross country, but we had a great, our league is very competitive in cross country. So both our teams got 3rd place, which means they qualified for the state meets. Girls finished 8th in the state meet, boys finished 5th in the state meet. And watching our kids compete was something, and Coach Kenny does a great job with our cross country team. So I just want to give you a quick update of where the fall has been. Again, I'm blessed to have great adults leading our student athletes and the great student athletes to be involved with. So again, I'm hoping this can be a every year thing to come in and speak to you about kind of where we are and answer questions if need be and that sort of thing. So
Absolutely.
thank you.
Thank you. Anybody?
Yes. Yeah.
Kind of relates back to the Ideal Athletic Program, work that's been done, and then it's great to create that. Then it eventually takes the buy-in of everyone.
Right.
How is the buy-in of the coaching, been? Has it been an easy thing, difficult thing? Do you feel it's working from more of a unified message?
Thank you for the question. I met after I believe around that time I came in July. I thought it was important for me to individually meet with every head coach. So I spent a couple of weeks in July meeting with our head coaching staff just to get to know them, for them to get to know me, but then to reiterate kind of where I saw our IAP is and where the big pillars were to get to where we wanted to be. And like I said, I've been blessed with outstanding adults to take this mission and our pillars and move them with our program. So it's been great. But I do think the work is on the backside. It is work to create what we're doing, but also I think the big work is now taking it to the next couple steps. And I see ourselves always pushing our coaches and our athletes at school to keep progressing in a positive manner with that. So.
Anybody else?
Last sort of comment, as Mr. Lord came on board, what I heard and saw was exactly what he's describing, his immediate move to build relationships with the coaching staff. The feedback I've gotten is a lot of strength and just moving forward and some clarity and consistency. And I appreciate his desire to come in and share with the board, right? This is about a whole community growing whole kids. And this is part of what we do. So thanks a bunch, Mike, for your work.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mike.
Okay, next up we have middle school capital project update. Mr. Mann.
Indeed. So thank you, Chair McNeil and directors, in your board packet is a summary that really has two parts to it. One is the work that's been done most recently to move forward on the capital project of building a new middle school. And a couple of your board members were involved in the process that's described there to identify the general contracting firm, the CMGC firm. And, this is my first rodeo, so I don't have a point to compare it with, but Mr. Stewart, Ron Stewart, and our partners at OPSIS, our architects, and across the board, to have the kind of appetite in the market, to have the 9 proposals that we saw. I'm understanding from those who've been there and done that is that it was a very competitive group of great builders that came to the table. And the committee you see interviewed 5 finalists and brought forward a single finalist. Will bring a contract to the board soon. That's Pence Contractors. They were the lead contractor, for example, recently on the Oregon City Middle School, which is one of the middle schools that we had a team visit. Just really, really, really pleased both with what they presented in that competitive process, but also to walk that school and see the quality of what they've produced. So we are making the turn from that schematic design phase. You'll recall back in the fall, our architects were here to share with the board some of that early schematic, get some feedback. They're working with administrators, hearing from teachers, working with Randy, working with the core team. They also shared that same schematic design with the public at an open house that was followed by the bond oversight committee's review of that. All of that moved forward then into now what is beginning this week is that second piece of design development phase, where they're really moving from concepts. Now they're getting ready to move into the fine-tooth details. And at your special meeting on the 30th, and our architects will be here to present again, what's that next iteration look like? And you'll get visuals. I think that will even include visual flyby, not flyby, but fly in, right? As if you're walking down the hallway. Technology really just allows some opportunities to see and look before it's built. We'll do that same share out with the community at a February community event. I believe it's scheduled for the 8th, 11th. Thank you, Lori. And the Bond Oversight Committee will see it as well, but we want to make sure the board sees it first and has an opportunity to provide a response as well. So things are moving along on track, on budget, and that's the first part of the report here tonight. Before I pivot to the second part of the report, which is the revenue and budget that I discussed with the Bond Oversight Committee earlier this week, I'll pause and take any questions on the first part.
I have just one question, Madam Chair. Just to be clear, that when you say on budget, the budget amount is the 77.6. When you say on budget, it's within that number.
Yeah, let me,
No, yeah.
that's a perfect segue to talk about the budget itself. So I'm channeling my inner CFO here, whether that's Andy Campbell or Rick Gill or any of the great CFOs we've had, to say a budget is an estimate of revenue and an estimate of expenditures. And what I shared with the Bond Oversight Committee in December is the same thing I walked through in greater detail last night, and it ties back to your observation, Mark. What is the budget, right? So the budget itself includes all of the revenue from the sale of the bonds, which is the 77 point some million. I think it's 77.4 once we had our the expenses associated with selling the bonds resolved. Andy could help me if I miss a detail on there. It also includes, and I'm just going to share a screen here again, revenue that is typical revenue in the sale of public bonds, but not revenue that any kind of public agency can bank on or take to the bank, because there are so many variables involved in what comes through. And for us, there were three. Well, let me back up. So back to your question. Yep, $77.6 million is the bond issuance that went before the voters on a 30-year term with $1.55 per thousand tax assessed value. That remains static, will not change. I guess the only thing that does change is once that was all structured, there's actually a step down in year 20. Is it Mr. Campbell's at year 27 or 28? 26. So in year 26 of that 30-year term, it steps down from $1.55 per thousand tax assessed value to 81 cents, right? So there's a step down in that, which wasn't expected, right? Until the process is finished, we couldn't expect that. The things we also couldn't expect but play out are additional revenues from three sources. One of them are the bond premiums that were paid by investors. We talked about that, I think, in an earlier meeting. And just to summarize again, that's a function of two things. One, our bond rating, in other words, our credit worthiness as an organization, coupled with the conditions of the market the day we sold the bonds. That day in November or whatever it was, resulted in a competitive process where investors were willing to pay more than what we were asking, basically, to hold these bonds. And that resulted in $7.13 million in revenue that came to the district that was not expected. The second bullet item on the projection there is the interest earnings, right? So those dollars hit our bank, and we have the ability, like any public agency, to take those dollars during the course of the project, which is about 3 years or so, and invest them in super safe. See, I should know these things just off the top of my head. U.S. security bonds, right? And that's going to produce an estimated $5.12 million in additional revenue that, again, we couldn't expect at the time the bonds were sold. That's capped, by the way. The federal government does not allow public bodies to invest bond dollars beyond a certain threshold. The rule is called arbitrage. The arbitrage rule says, hey, Molalla River School District, that's as far north as you can go on revenue. If you earn more revenue than that, you actually have to return it, right? So preventing public bodies from sitting on resources, right? The third category of unexpected revenue are the awesome grant funds. Those are state grant dollars that came from the Oregon legislature when they decided some years ago to support local districts' work. We really didn't expect that. In fact, we were at the bottom of the list in Oregon school districts that applied for those grant dollars. And as it came to pass on election day, those above us were not successful in passing a bond. And so we rose to the place where we actually were awarded that $6 million. The total of 18.25, then coupled with the 77.6, thank you, million is the budget itself. And we shared the budget with the Bond Oversight Committee, and we can even, has this been shared directly with the board along the way, or is it part of your packet tonight?
It's not part of my packet. It's been shared a few times.
Okay. And as public budgets accounted for, every dollar of the revenue that I just described is accounted for in this budget. The dollars that came in from the unexpected sources then are part of contingency that is part of that prudent reserve. So we don't expect on the front end that there will be a full expenditure beyond, well, let me back up. The budget itself publicly accounts for all of the revenue. It's all spelled out within line items for contracted services and for materials and so on and so forth. And we won't exceed that budget that does include the additional dollars. So Mark, it's not just Director Luke, the 77.6, all those additional revenues are there and are contingency line items within the budget.
Okay.
So where do those dollars go? And what are the options? And I shared with the Bond Oversight Committee the same things that I'll share with the board tonight, is that at the end of the day, the board will have, you will have as a body, options as we move forward. And there's so much, my understanding is that there's so much yet to be determined. We have to yet hire and bring on our CMGC contractor. The final design work needs to be finalized. The conditions of supply and demand we need to get closer to the point where we're purchasing. And so there are really kind of three scenarios that are spelled out in your packet that the board will have an opportunity to explore for the use of those additional funds. The first really is about ensuring that we keep our promise to the voters. If there are unexpected costs that exceed what we planned for in the pre-bond process due to higher than forecasted escalation in inflation costs, tariff, whatever the case might be, that's that prudent reserve for those unforeseen costs. The other piece that's unforeseen is in that second item, the unforeseen costs associated with obligations that we'll have that we don't have control over directly. And those are our obligations with the city of Molalla to construct streets and infrastructure. It's not uncommon for a jurisdiction municipality to expect someone who's doing construction to build out some of the infrastructure. Our original plan had about, I think, $500,000, and it's a back and forth with the jurisdiction that has just begun, right? The city's looking at having, I think, almost $3 million worth of projects completed out of our work that we would be responsible for paying for. And there's going to be a back and forth between what, in fact, are we obligated to? And there's rules around proportionality and stuff that I won't speak to tonight. Until we get to the finish line with that negotiation with the city, we don't know what that total cost will be. Again, that's another of the examples that we've got this contingency to work with. That second priority area really speaks to the idea of a final product. The pre-bond work that the pre-bond advisory put together, they said, hey, we really want to look at 3 different tiers of what the school might look like. We don't expect and don't want the Taj Mahal, but if we have options, what might this look like from a grade A, grade B, grade C middle school? And there are some things from a grade A middle school perspective that were not part of our original design. For example, the resurfacing of the track that our middle schoolers use, that's really closer geographically to the elementary school, but it's part of the middle school property. Resurfacing of that track in that field, could that be something that we want to accomplish while we have the resources? It'll cost more down the road. Those are all, again, decisions that the board will get to make. Do we want to fence more of the property than just the school and the playground area next to it? We want to fence the whole, right? Again, there are variables that the board will get to choose. One of the strategic investments that I talked with the bond oversight committee was this building arguably will be the most seismically sound building in South Clackamas County. In the event of, the big one, the Cascadia subduction zone earthquake, this building will be built to current seismic standards. Additional dollars could be spent to move it to the structural integrity that could allow this building to be a grade A shelter. Yeah, that was the word I was looking for. A grade A shelter for a whole community in the event of a catastrophic event. So there's lots of variables. The third option, and this is not in any particular order. In fact, I could have put it the other way around. But the third one that's listed on your list is to use any unspent revenue to pay down bond debt early. And I've asked Mr. Campbell to work with our bonding agency to get some figures for the board at some point in time to be able to talk about if we were to pay down $1 million, for example, for every $1 million we might pay down early with these additional revenue, what would that mean for the taxpayer? What would the tax holiday look like, or what would the difference mean over time on cents per thousand? So we'll have those data for you before the board ever is asked to make a decision. And the real goal earlier this week was to make sure that the bond oversight committee had an answer to this question. Gosh, you put a bond before the voters for $77.6 million. How is it that you have all this additional revenue, and what is it that it will be used for? And I think that the committee gave me the sense that by walking out with this exact same material that you have, that they feel informed enough to be able to talk with their friends and neighbors in the grocery store and at church on Sunday and answer those questions. So I want to make sure you have sufficient information as well, and I'll be glad to stop and answer questions.
So just if I may, the plan right now is, I understand there's many unknowns and we have contingency, but the plan right now is to complete this project within the 77.6 number. And we have 18.25 as our contingency or reserve in case something unexpected comes up. Am I saying that right?
Yes, with one caveat: the $6 million in Awesome Grant money, those are dollars that have to be spent on this project. And so currently 2/3 of the Awesome Grant funds are built into the spending plan.
Okay.
So about $4 million.
So one metric I'd be interested in is, how are we doing red, yellow, or green in terms of scope, schedule, and budget against that number of 77.6 plus 6, as opposed to the full budget, which includes this contingency of 18.25?
I think that's a fair ask.
Because if we give a project team 90-something million, they'll use up 97 million. I don't want that to be the target. I want it to be 77.6 plus the.
I agree.
Awesome. Okay.
Yep.
That's
I
all I'm
agree.
asking.
And our public budget document has to account for those contingency dollars, so it will. But I'm hearing you say, Director Luke, and I agree, that we bring back to the board on our regular reports an update tied back to the 77.6 plus the $6 million for Awesome Grant money.
Please.
Okay.
Am I wrong then, Tony? I thought all of the revenues related to the 18.3 must be spent strictly on this middle school project, because the others are bond related, whether it be interest or, bond revenue proceeds. bonuses, those are all bond related. I thought all of that had to be spent on the middle school only.
They do. And so if I suggested
Okay.
otherwise, I appreciate the clarification. The 6 million on the awesome grant funds tied back to my understanding, unless, Mr. Campbell says otherwise, or our partners with the firm that we're working with say otherwise, but those dollars cannot be used to spend the debt down. They were designed specifically
I see what
to
you're saying, yes, correctly.
insert into the middle school.
Yes, that is correct.
But you're talking about the rest of it, the funds as well.
They all have to either be spent on the middle school or refunded, yes. But they can be refunded where the awesome grant cannot.
Yes, that was the one twist. Yep.
Anybody else have questions?
All
I
right,
think you
thank
did
you.
a great job of spelling it out.
Is that what you need? And we'll be back every month with an update for the board. So
Good transparency. Thank you. All right. Next up, we have facilities and deferred maintenance report with Mr. Tiano. Hi.
Good evening, Chair, members of the board. Just a couple things tonight. It's kind of a big day tomorrow. We have ZCS, our engineering firm that's been working on our Malino seismic capital improvement seismic $2.5 million grant, is going to be hand submitted tomorrow by Christina Adams of ZCS. Got everything put together. Got Tony Mann's final signature. Got some emails yesterday saying, hey, we're hand delivering this, so let's cross our fingers we get this grant. And that's the seismic upgrade from Malino. Yep, Malino North building, not the south building. So everything is in here. There's the schematics, the designs, the engineers. They've got color coded roofs. It's quite detailed. So these are the same folks, obviously, that helped us with the Clark's seismic upgrade grant that we got back in 2020. Second thing, again, we're talking about middle school. I'd like to bring up the dreaded middle school tonight if I can. Monday, we had boiler number 1 go down. When I mean go down, we had a gas valve that failed. This gas valve is actually no longer in service. So after doing some very thorough investigation with me and my boiler contractor, we found out that this manufacturer no longer exists. Somebody else actually bought this company out. So we're doing some research, calling the manufacturer. We had found a valve that's about $4,000 to replace this one. After actually doing more research, we found another company, Honeywell, that makes a similar valve that we can get for $2,500. It's not counting labor. So I had those guys order that next day, second day air as fast as we could get that valve here, because right now we're running on one boiler. And at that boiler, when we have one running, it's very, very hard to keep that school building on one boiler. With the second one being down, you get kind of a little bit of cold water mixture with the hot water that's going in the one that's running. We're getting a lot of plumbing hammering. It's really shaking some of the plumbing pipes. So we shut down a little bit of the times on boiler 2 to make sure it's not getting overrun. So that's kind of where we're at with the boiler system. We're still having steam trap issues. We had steam valve issues. We've had 3 go out in the last 3 weeks. We've actually got those replaced. When we have a steam valve that leaks, it blows steam, creates condensate, drips into the classroom. And I mean, just slow drip, not gushing water. But we just shut it down. So we've got one more valve coming. I can't remember which room it is. There's been room 32, 27, 14. So anyway, we just don't, I just feel like we're just on borrowed time with the building. So I think this has just been fantastic with the community supporting this new middle school. Me being so invested with Lance, I really think we picked the right architect. I think we really picked the right project management team. They've really, really listened to everything Randy, myself, the staff, trying to get everything we can to make this middle school perfect and right. Being part of the oversight committee, I got invited to go downtown Portland. I was explaining to the cabinet today, got to sit with an electrical engineer, a plumbing engineer, a mechanical engineer, even a landscaping engineer. And I sat at a conference table about 20 feet long. ETO was there, Energy Trust. They were just filling me with information because basically we're going to be the ones that are maintaining that building. So, getting a little bit of the input from me on our climate tech system, embedding that into our new middle school was huge. Just so a few of the details I could point out, but of course I didn't make any suggestions or directions. It was just it was about a 3-hour informational seminar that they held for me, which I thought was very, very cool. So other than that, we had a boiler go down at Clark's. We got repaired. Thank God we got it repaired just before school started on Tuesday. With a lot of our aging equipment around the district, there's been some challenges at the high school, and I could kind of go on and on. But yeah, you got my report, and I don't know if you guys have any other questions.
The valves, just to have
We
someone.
did. We ordered one extra valve, steam valve. They're kind of hard to find and hard to get, but yeah. So we're looking into rebuilding this gas valve for boiler 1. We're looking to see if we can actually take it. Once we take it off, we get the new one installed. We're looking to see if we can actually rebuild that. There's just a mechanism lever that goes up and down, but we don't have the time to take it, ship it out, have it rebuilt, bring it back. We got cold weather coming next week. So it's just trying to get the stuff done as fast as we can.
Anybody have questions? No.
Yeah.
Thank
One
you
other
so
thing,
much.
I'd like to just give my thanks to all the administrators for being patient with the facility department, because I know sometimes there's some struggles, but appreciate your time.
Thanks, Tony. Appreciate it. Okay. Andy Campbell for the financial review. Hello.
Tiano's a rock star. We all know that. He's doing amazing work, keeping that building going. Director McNeil, other directors, appreciate your time tonight. You have my finance report, so if you have any questions, please let me know. I did want to highlight on the agenda item explanation for the audit information. At the time of that writing, we did not have the full report back. We have subsequently received the report as a clean, unmodified opinion audit report with no significant findings. You'll get the full audit report and the board of directors letter at the work session in a couple of weeks. So you'll have a chance to review that and go through all the details. If you choose to read all of it, it's commendable. It's quite the report. It was turned into ODE on time this year, so there's no delay in our state school funding payments for January. The state school fund, there has not been an update yet. I'm hoping maybe early February we'll have an update on the state school fund. And I'm continuing to work on the PERS update, which will impact our 25-26 budget as budget season kicks off. So you'll get an update on that as soon as we have one. Anybody has any questions?
I just had, did you have one? I just had one question, and maybe this is just me not paying attention to other budgets that you've brought forward, but the contingency at 0 for the actual, can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, so the contingency is something that would be used at the very end of the budget cycle. So right now we're not anticipating using any of the contingency.
Okay.
If we were anticipating using any of that number would be filled in.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, last year, I believe we used $30,000 of the contingency, which was a decision that was made at the very end of the year.
That's all I had. Anybody?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next up, we have teaching and learning, curriculum, instruction, and assessment. Hi.
Hey, good evening, Chair McNeil and directors, and also Happy New Year to you all.
New Year.
So just want to kind of circle back and keep you informed. My report is short, but the first topic on here is our continued partnership with the Confederated Tribes of Grand Bond. And as part of the MOU, we are making sure that we implement components of the 4th and 8th grade curriculums and any new curriculums that are written by the curriculum director for the tribe. And so I believe, if you remember, Cheyenne Height was here about a year ago, so she writes the curriculum. And so prior to break, she asked for feedback from our teachers on usage, but also just on the lessons themselves. That's what a great curriculum person does. They want feedback on the lessons. And so with the help of our principals, staff were asked to fill out some surveys. And so we were able to provide that for her. So this is just kind of an ongoing, check in our MOU, and a great relationship with talking about curriculum. The second thing on the report is high dosage tutoring. So if you remember the last time I was here, I think we had we were just about to launch high dosage tutoring at all 4 of the elementaries. And so that kicked off, and we're continuing that this week. That is a 10-week program for students K through 3 that are rising readers and need a little extra assistance. And so that's happening at all 4 of our elementaries. And we have 19 very enthusiastic tutors who are tutoring with about 60 students. So we're really excited with that program. That's, again, part of our early literacy grant initiative. What questions do you have for me?
FTE structure on the tutoring, is that licensed, not licensed? How?
Right.
How does that
So
work?
one of it can be, a teacher can be an instructional assistant, but one of the requirements is they had to go through a training. And so all of those tutors did go through a training of the science of reading, very hands-on. And so we have a mixture of teachers and instructional assistants that are doing the tutoring.
So the early literacy, that's this year, this is new to this year, right? It's a
That
brand new
is
program.
correct.
My question is, how will you know after the 10 weeks if you're successful or not? What are you looking at, some measures there?
Right, yes. So we have double scores as well as some data that was taken prior to the
Oh, so you have
tutoring.
a baseline.
And so we
Yeah.
do have a baseline. And so we're, just monitoring that data to see their growth.
Very good. Thank you.
You do see growth there, or is there enough funds left over from the grant to continue on with that?
Well, so the grant was just updated in terms of we have more funding through March of 2026. The caveat here is that it has to be 10 consecutive weeks, and this program is going to end right before spring break. So we're kind of getting into almost June, so that will be something that we'll need to decide if we want to do a second dose.
Okay. Anybody else? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving along, we have student services with Dr. Shob. Hi.
I have a report that's pretty similar to last month's, but I had 2 things that I wanted to talk about that are not on the report. And one is just to call out a person, Donna Russell. She's been a special education instructional assistant here for many years, and she is retiring, but she has threatened to come back and do some substitute teaching for us. And she is going to enter her retirement by riding her bike across the United States. Yeah, so pretty awesome. So she says when she doesn't feel like training, she will come sub. So we're really thankful for that. Second, really the credit for kind of the legwork on all of this, but I get to present it to you, are the special education stipends that the Oregon Department of Education made available to special education staff this year. They set aside $9.1 million for any staff, well, classified and licensed staff, who work directly with students and work with students with disabilities at least 70% of the time. So both, again, Andy and Jennifer deserve all of the accolades for the hard work. I know Jennifer worked with both of the unions too to make sure that we didn't miss anybody. And we have submitted an application for 47 of our staff to receive the stipend. And if your next question is how much is the stipend, it is 9.1 million divided by all the people that apply. No idea. I've tried to put all kinds of things in my mental algorithm of what that might be, and it could be anywhere from $2 to thousands of dollars. I have no idea. So those are my 2 updates. Any questions?
For them to feel a little more appreciated.
Yeah, I think so. I can think of other ways that we may have spent that money, but they certainly do. I mean, I don't want to minimize that they completely deserve it.
Yeah.
Good. I'm glad to see program alignment with the district scorecard,
Yes.
which means the way people do their jobs will change, which means it's new. There's something new that you're going to be doing that you weren't doing before,
Mhm.
right? How is the buy-in for the new process, would you say? Has there been
Well,
any change management around
I
that?
would say it's a process.
Mhm.
And the way that we're being supported is to come up with, I had a hard time saying it today, kind of like strategic shifts or strategic moves. And so Tamara and I are working together to really look at what are the strategic moves that we'll do from the district level to really pull things into our vision and mission and to align them to the scorecard. And if I'm being nebulous, it's because you're going to get that presentation in a couple of 2 or 3 weeks. But I guess one thing I would say is change is always a little bit hard. Yeah.
There's often people that specialize in change management for organizations for that very purpose.
Yep.
Okay.
So,
I'll wait for the report.
and really one of the shifts I'll just, is data, right? Is people looking and consuming data at a higher level.
Yep.
To make data-driven decisions. So,
Thank you.
yes, thank you.
Remind me what YTP stands for?
Youth transition. So it's a youth transition program. We have a youth transition program coordinator. And that person is paid for through a grant. We used to get that grant through the university, I believe through the University of Oregon. And then I don't know how much, I don't want to go, don't want to give you more details than you need. But just for this year, the grant changed and it's now going through Voc Rehab. And so it pays for us to have a full-time classified person who supports any student that they have to apply, but it's not hard, ages 14 and older, who want to do some targeted work around career exploration and those kinds of things. And some of the grant actually pays for students to do some paid internships around our district to gain some of that experience. So we have a person who works out of the high school full-time that does that.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else? Thank you. All right, superintendent's report.
I have just one item, Chair McNeil and directors, and just the theme of our strategic plan and our mission, vision, and pillars is something that's, an undercurrent for us here tonight, and will continue to be even higher profile. One of them, pillars, is partners. And I just want to call out some work that we're doing to intentionally build partnership with other agencies. What do I mean by that? You hear that term frequently around working in silos, and you don't get synergy. And I think sometimes public agencies work in silos, and with an intention of building partnership, I want to just give a nod to Director Show and Principal Mitchell, who are going to join me for conversation with leadership from Department of Human Services here in the next month to really talk about how do we align and collaborate so that we're getting the right resources. And they may not be educational resources, they may be other kinds of resources that are coming from DHS, but how are we doing that in a way that is delivering results? And so I just want to, again, give a nod to them for being at the table with me and that focus on partnership. Out of that, I'm not sure what will come, but I know that if we're not at the table together, that nothing will come, right? So we're going to be with county leadership. I did have some conversations with the COO at the state level, and he put me in touch with these folks and said, yep, let's see if we can get some synergy going. So I have nothing else to report tonight other than Happy New Year, and got a great team.
Board comments? Rob? Nothing?
No.
It occurred to me about halfway through the meeting that maybe Rob shouldn't be sitting way down there. Maybe he should be here with the rest of us. But I didn't want to say anything because I didn't want to interrupt the flow of the meeting.
He's on his own
Next time we have a
island
bunch
over
of
there.
people missing. The only
Yeah,
thing I
that
want to
makes
say also is, yeah, Happy New Year, and I'm excited for, the coming months in the middle school and all the great things that we have ahead of us.
Yeah.
Just that, attended the Bond Oversight Committee meeting last night only to, because my wife's on that committee, is that there's just such excitement and passion for whether it be, the volunteers we had earlier in all of the pre-bond planning to now seeing what's going on in the Oversight Committee. It was super well attended. I don't know if there was anybody missing. And they are very, very, very passionate about their involvement in this whole process. And so I think we need to continue to be cognizant of the fact that, yes, this board gets to make a lot of decisions, but our ability to be open and involve the public as strategically as we can is going to be very, very important as we go forward. And so to let them share in all of it as it progresses. So. Anyway, that's it.
Nothing here.
I agree with Neil. And that's just to remind everybody they're volunteers and they're taking their time off away from their families to be at these meetings, and they'll be really excited about it. Okay. Upcoming meetings, we have January 23rd, which is when we're going over the goals, and the right words aren't coming to my brain right now. Our strategic goals. Yes.
And working on really in a full workshop model, talking with the board about the scorecard. Yep, the scorecard aligned to the goals.
And the report, the pre-read for that will be available the Friday prior. Is that on board book for us?
Yeah, we always publish anything we're publishing beforehand. The Friday before, we have some data that will be hot off of the press as it relates to elementary reading, for example. So there may be some data that isn't in a pre set of material, but we'll publish it all on our website, regardless if it's there or not beforehand.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does.
And then the policy committee was postponed January 20th because we have a training that evening. And so that's been postponed till February 25th. And then we have a special meeting on the 30th to go over the bond in middle school details. All right. Shall we adjourn? Moved and seconded. All in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.